No way, you gotta listen to me. Jason's coming here, he's after me. I tried to destroy him, but I fucked up.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Killer Countdown, where I rank all of my favorite kills and all of your favorite horror movies and franchises. My name is Rashawn Bass, and today we're going to be taking a look at Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, which was released in 1986 and directed by Tom McLaughlin. This installment has a total of 18 kills, but before I get to my official rankings, let me go over the victims I will not be including. First omission goes to Roy, who was completely chopped to pieces. The reveal wasn't so bad, but in my opinion, it was just not rank worthy. Next up is Officer Thornton, who got a dart in the forehead. It was pretty straightforward, and the only thing that I could say after watching it was, okay, Katniss. So I just decided to leave it off of my official rankings. Now with a total of 2 omissions, here are my top 16 kills. And Friday the 13th, Jason Lives. In places 16, 15, and 14 actually go to the triple decapitation by Stan, Katie, and Larry. The only reason why this is on my list is because the triple decapitation is the first of its kind, so it gets more of an honorable mention than anything. At number 13 is Bert, who had his arm ripped off and thrown into a tree. This is where Jason gets his iconic machete, and it was funny seeing Jason kind of admire his handiwork, and the smiley face was a nice added touch and it made me smile a little bit. At number 12 is Darren, who was speared in the gut and tossed like a rag doll. I like how Darren thought that that gun that he had was actually going to do something against Jason, and then he was just dispatched with the quickness, and the overhead toss was just completely hilarious. Number 11 is Officer Pappas, who had his head crushed. The sound effects here were great. One thing I really liked was the blood splatter on Jason's mask, and that body reveal by Sheriff Jarvis was morbid and awesome. And starting out my top 10 goes to Martin, who was stabbed in the throat with a bottle and then chopped to pieces. The bitter irony here was absolutely funny, and I really liked when you saw Martin actually throw the bottle over his head, expecting to hear it break on the ground, but there was complete silence, and then you turn around and boom, Jason's there for the kill. It was great angst, and it easily landed in my top 10 spot. At places 9 and 8 goes to Steven and Annette with a double impalement. The kill itself wasn't anything special. We've seen plenty of 2 human skewers so far in the franchise. I put this in here because of what led up to it. Jason was chopping up Martin, and the look he gave Steven once he spotted him was creepy as hell, which instantly led to a short but suspenseful chase. At number 7 we have Court, who was stabbed in the head with a knife. I love how this was filmed. Court being clueless as to what's going on behind him and how that smile was gone the moment he looked in a rearview mirror and saw Jason. Then once Court is out, the RV crashes and we get this complete badass shot of Jason standing on top of the flaming RV. 'Twas a work of art. Number 6 goes to Elizabeth, who was speared in the mouth. I really like the build up to this. She thinks clamoring for a wallet to bribe Jason would actually work. She looks up and then he's nowhere to be found. She's looking around like a lost puppy, but he doesn't wait too long before the jump down and planting the gatepost in her head. Great shot of him standing over her body in the bubbling water was also a great added touch. Starting at my top 5 goes to Nikki, who had her head crushed into the RV wall. There was so much going on here. I forgot that Jason even snuck onto the RV. The moment he popped out of the bathroom, I thought was smooth and calculated. He used some finesse there, but there was no finesse needed slamming her face into the fucking wall. Just listen to the sound of the wall caving in. Finesse doesn't sound like that. That is raw fucking power. And enough power to round out my top 5. And speaking of raw power, number 4 goes to Alan, who had his heart punched out of his fucking chest. He made me laugh a bit, especially with his reluctance with Tommy's plans to begin with. He was loyal because he didn't even have to go. Unfortunately for him, he met a painful demise, but fortunately for us, we get to see Jason punch his heart out of his body for the first kill of the movie. Carving out my top 3 goes to Sheriff Jarvis, who was bent backwards and snapped in half. At this point, he was the only person to put up a real fight. He was only doing this to protect his daughter Megan. He was an asshole, but for good reason, and at the end of the day, he's not just a cop. He is a father trying to stop an immediate threat by any means necessary, like smashing a rock on Jason's face. Unfortunately, he's no match for Jason, who seems to bend him over backwards with ease. The sound of his back breaking was nauseating enough to land us in the 3rd spot. Our runner-up in the number 2 spot goes to Sissy, who had her head ripped off. I like the creepy atmosphere and the lack of background music. She thinks it's Court, who was already dead by this point, was outside trying to scare them. All you hear are crickets chirping, and then you can hear the footsteps. Sissy thinks Court is hiding beneath the window, so she goes to pour soda on him, hoping to get the upper hand, which doesn't work. Then comes the most paranoia-inducing moment that landed this at the number 2 spot.
You guys, try not to wake the kids.
Claiming the number 1 spot for Jason Lives is Paula, who is hacked up with the machete. The reason why this is at number 1 is because of how much of a slow burn this is. It starts with a shot of the bloody machete in someone's hand. Any horror fan knows this is definitely not Jason, but this still helps build the suspense. Once they get inside Paula's cabin, that's when the creepy music builds and Paula jumps out of her sleep to see that Nancy was the one holding it. Thinking it was Sissy in court playing a joke, she walks Nancy back to the girl's cabin so she can go to bed, which is where we get our first view of Jason and what is the creepiest tracking shot I've ever seen. That slow, methodical walk he has, and he's following her path to the outdoors. Once outside, she hears footsteps thinking it's Court. She calls out his name, but since she gets no answer, Paula bolts back to her cabin. Paula's back and she notices the machete was missing. If the prior movies gave you any indication, this is when Jason would have made his move, but no. More suspense is built when the wind blows the door open. Paula gets up and slowly walks over to it. Takes a peek outside, and before she can close the door herself, the wind closes it, startling her again. Once she realizes what happened, she laughs it off, and once she entered the false sense of security, that's when Jason shows himself and begins the greatest slaughter of all time. All you hear are her screams, blood splatters on the window, and he tosses her through the fucking window. A bit later, when Megan gets back, that's when we see the aftermath of Paula's demise, and at this point, I don't think a body reveal is possible because I don't think there's much of a body left. And that's the reason why Paula claims my number 1 spot. Here are my official rankings for Friday the 13th Part 6 Jason Lives. In the comment section below, tell me exactly how you'll rank all these kills. Once again, my name's Sean Bass and this is the Killer Countdown. Please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to join the Killer Countdown clan. Just don't go burning any crosses now.